Welcome back. It's Wednesday, and here on Markets Today, we're always talking about technology and how can we use it either to enhance our businesses or as an investment opportunity. Mr. George Munga is with us in studio. He is the managing partner for AMG Kenya. If you have just joined us, earlier on, he was taking us through the evolution of technology and the opportunity set. We've talked about some emerging opportunities in the education sector, in the professional sector. Now, before we took the break, George told us that there are many opportunities. The question is, how do you move from knowledge to monetizing? Before I go to George, however, we want to have you join this conversation. We are already receiving your comments and your feedback. And yes, I will be reading this as we go through the show, but it's never too late. 20146, that is our SMS line, or at Metropole TV on Facebook, Instagram or Twitter. Alternatively, you could reach out to me directly. That's at Mbithe Mwema on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. Please be part of this conversation and give us your questions so that we can ask Mr. Munga to help us answer these questions. Back to you, Mr. Munga. So I like that before we took the break, you said find a way to monetize it. And even as we get into this conversation, somebody has actually asked us online, and this is Valerie Akinyi, and she says that she sells medical uniforms and supplies and is wondering, how can I use ICT in my medical apparels business? How would she look at it in terms of the adoption of technology, either to improve her internal processes or for her to access new markets?
I think that is I'll give a straight answer to that. One, if you're in a business already, you are selling. Our sister is selling medical apparel, is it?
Yes.
First of all, you look at your clients. Where are your clients based? Are they hospitals? Are they private practitioners? Are they chemists? And then how do we check how do they source their supplies currently? What are the gaps? What are the bottlenecks that they could be having? And then that is now what you come in to sort out. For example, if I'm selling medical equipments and maybe a hospital in Busia or in Mombasa wanted this product, where do they source them from? What are the costs? What are the cost elements? How can my product be able to cut that cost so that I can supply this product efficiently and at a much lower cost and conveniently? These are the things that you look out for. So one is to map your clients, and you see their needs, and you now come in and check how efficiently are you able to supply them those products using ICT as a
platform.
Tool. Correct.
So if I hear you, Mr. Munga, what you're saying is that she should probably take this opportunity to at least get all the information of her existing clients onto an online platform. So either use the Google apps or the Google Drive to send them surveys or forms, or just from her M-Pesa statements, find some time to just collate this information online. And then the next thing, she probably wants to look back at her records and see what has been the revenue generation, what has been the margin actually per client. It's an opportunity to do that. And then now take this opportunity and leverage on technological platforms to then ask herself, who are the people that I want to serve and how do I move from here on? Fantastic. Thank you so much. I wish I was in the medical business. Valerie, I hope you have been answered. If you have a subsequent question to this, please feel free to extend it and we will be more than happy to ask it on your behalf. So ladies and gentlemen, it's a Wednesday, it's all about technology. We have Mr. George Munga here with us. Please, if you have a question or two or even a comment in terms of feedback for the gems that he's sharing with us, please feel welcome to be part of the conversation. Now, Mr. Munga, going back to monetize the opportunity using technology, you left us with the example of you had a business opportunity, you are based in South Sudan, but you are able to extend your services into Sudan without necessarily setting up a physical shop there.
Correct.
So then how do we look at this opportunity of technology and monetization? Because most people get stuck at the point of information and they're unable to move to the next set of monetization.
I think that is where That is what now differentiates a technocrat with a business mind. A business mind would look at how do I get revenues from whatever I'm doing, so that I return some income or return some revenues back to my shareholders.
Okay.
I'll tell you what SpaceX did. SpaceX was looking at the space technology and how they could monetize it. One, they looked at how what has been happening before, how governments had tried to go into this arena, and they said that most governments were investing with no return to it. The US made their first debut into the moon in 1969. I think
Yes.
I thought so, with no return to it. What SpaceX has done is they're coming up with a solution where they can take tourists to the space, and I'm sure many of us would want to do that.
I hope I can do an interview in space. This is Markets Today. Out here in Mars, we are reporting live.
If you can afford that.
Yes,
so I can bet you that when this is launched and it is safe, then they'll be able to monetize. So for any person that is thinking about how to monetize business, first of all, look at it from the end and then work backward.
Okay.
That's the best way to look at it. If you look at what SportPesa did, there was a huge there's a very huge sport followers.
Yes.
In Kenya, but most clubs or most players in that industry were not able to monetize that. What they did is to look at this pool of sports lovers, and they saw that as an opportunity, and just crack them and see how can we monetize this pool of sports lovers, and they're able to do that. And I can bet you that from the tax that the carry was demanded from them,
exactly.
they made tons and tons of money. So for anybody looking at ICT, first of all, look at the end game, and then work backwards.
Okay.
That is the way it works. Look at what even M-Pesa did. M-Pesa saw the opportunities in money transfer and how they could come in to sort out that problem and be able to get money out of that. And several years down the line, they've made a lot of money from M-Pesa. So I think that is what any person in any business should focus on, and should start looking at.
All right. Mm-hmm. I want to come back to this question from Valerie Akinyi on medical supplies. And I know with COVID-19, the health sector has been one that has actually profited. One of the ones that's profited the most in this sector. And just taking you back to your process in terms of the framework of think through, then act on it. Are there emerging opportunities in the medical supplies? I mean, it's a bit too late to be selling sanitizer and to be selling masks, if that ship sort of sailed. But are there emerging opportunities where, not necessarily focusing on uniforms and stuff, but are there emerging ways of doing business that come to mind from where you sit?
I'll give you an example, Bide. There are industries that it doesn't matter the time and age that we are in, they'll always be here with us. The models might change, but they'll always be here with us. One of them is education.
Okay.
The other one is health.
Okay.
Health will always be an industry that returns money. It doesn't matter 100 years from today,
yes,
or 1,000 years from today. The only thing that changes is the model.
Okay.
If you look at the model that India has adopted, and if you realize lately, most patients from Kenya with very serious complications fly to India for medication. Why do they do that? Not that we don't have capacity in Kenya, but what India has done, they're able to offer the same service, but at maybe a quarter or half the price that that patient would get their medication in Kenya. And how has India been able to do that? What they've been able to do is that they have a pool of doctors who can review your tests, can review your reports, all of them at once, and come up with a single, a way forward as a pool. In Kenya, you'd have to go to Aga Khan, then seek for a second opinion with a limited pool of doctors. So I think medicine or the medical sector, as it were, can be revolutionized in Kenya in such a way that we have all the doctors on one platform. And when I present my might report to a single doctor, he can be able to consult all the other doctors in that line and come up with a solution for me.
Okay.
That would not only reduce the cost of that service, but would also increase the turnaround time for this patient.
Okay.
And then when now you eventually go into medication, then how do you source this? How do you source these drugs at the most effective, the most efficient prices? If you have that the pool of suppliers in your platform, then you can be able to choose the best drug at the cheapest price. Fantastic. And you get it delivered to you. So I think medicine, the medical sector is going to be revolutionized in a few years to come. If you go by the models that we're already seeing in other countries.
Okay.
And I think Kenya would be willing to accept these changes as we go along.
Do you know what I hear you, what you're saying, George, which is quite profound, is I hear you saying, whatever industry that you are, you absolutely need to take a step back from a strategic standpoint, because whether it's education, whether it's medical supplies, whether it's food, whatever sector it is, you have to look back and ask yourself, how have I been doing business? And then now ask yourself, how will I do business with technology?
Correct.
Not if I will do business with technology,
Correct.
how do I do business? Because I like that you're bringing in the concept of we will need education, we will need medical assistance, and the list goes on. We will need food, we will need to eat water, we'll need soap, we'll need to pay for our houses, etc. But George, the thing that you've said, which is my aha moment for today, is how is this going to be? So it will keep changing, and I must be able to quickly adapt to how it's changing. Otherwise, then the sector remains, but then I don't become, I cease to be a member of that sector if I don't adapt into technology. I think that's my greatest takeout from this conversation. Okay, so let me now move this conversation, and you're saying COVID-19 has happened, there are emerging business opportunities, but then the anchor industries still remain the same. And I know there have been there has been a difference in terms of the impact in some sectors. The restaurant businesses have not done very well. Those ones had to close, but then emerging opportunities came. We've seen the likes of Trigger Food do extremely well in this season just by connecting customers. When you look into the year 2021, what sectors and subsectors do you think will do well? Or in other words, George, whatever business that I'm in, whatever sector that I'm in, what must I absolutely consider if I'm still going to remain relevant in another 1 to 2 or 3 years?
I think if I may start with the foods and the beverage industry, you look at the trends that we've had between March to date, and people have shifted from the eating, you go in and eat in a restaurant and then go out, to orders. Making your order, and that is why you've seen the likes of Glovo, the likes of Sedi, making quite some good entry into that space. If you are to go to South Africa, that is the trend. And these are the big economies. You order your food from KFC, you order food from Java, and you have your meal at home. So any player in that space, that is where the market is moving. Unfortunately, most individuals would not henceforth be going into an eatery and then move out. So you must start thinking of how do I connect with my client without necessarily insisting that they have to come to my premise. That is where the business is going to go. Same to education. I know it might be a challenge, especially for early childhood education. But now when you go to universities, tertiary education, then that is where the market is. That is where the market is going. So any university, be it in Kenya or across the world, must start thinking how can they deliver their models without necessarily having the physical presence of the students. And it is possible. It can be done. It has shown that can be done. And then lastly, about banking. You've seen most banks have moved their transaction to the mobile phone, and that is where the market has shifted. I think personally, the last time I went to the bank is quite sometimes. If I go once in a month, then that is I count that to be so many.
Unless you're just doing rudimentary tasks.
Correct. But most of the transactions then I do over the phone. So for any person doing their business in any sector, you must focus, or you must focus 1, 2, 3, or 4 years down the line. How will the business model in this industry look like? How can I change my business to fit into this model?
Okay.
If you don't do that, then you might find yourself left out. You remember what happened to Telkom Kenya?
Yes,
unfortunately.
Exactly.
Yes, they were in the correct business at the correct time, but they didn't change with the changes that were coming into the market, and they were left behind. So if you don't have that thinking, then the business will be there, but you'll be left behind.
Do you know, something stands out for me when it comes to the food sector? But before I answer that, I have also noticed that with the onset of technology, we've moved from us to me, myself, and I. What am I doing? And I just look at the evolution of the world, and we come from the Berlin Wall dropped, then communication started going, then the World Wide Web, it came, and information dissemination, you know, and barriers to entry into different facets of life were just coming down. And I think COVID-19 has brought down a huge element of doing work and providing services that says, as Mbithe, if I have access to technology on my phone, there's nothing stopping me. And with that analogy, I look at the food sector, and I keep saying this to some of my friends. I say, I'm not a chef, but I would like it if 2 or 3 people came together, especially from the hotel industry. If you are a specialty in desserts, if you had a specialty in starters, if you had a specialty in the mains, you came together, the 3 of you. Then you gave me a package that told me, Mbithe, you want a meal or 2 a day at an affordable price of maybe 200 or 350. And then I sign up, and I'm guaranteed quality. And then they sort of like try and look for 10, 20, 30 people on their own little platform. And then they keep exciting us, you know. And I keep saying, if I got that, I would not, you know, because the reality is today's population, there are many single people. I would like that, but I can't afford to pay 5,000 for it. You're not necessarily spending a lot of room. You don't have a huge cost complement. If you come together as 3 of you, that's already a business model. Then you ask Mbithe, ask somebody else, and I have gourmet meals.
That is where the business is going, and I like the way you're thinking, Mbithe. If all of us were to think in that direction, and government was also to think in that direction, then we'll move several strides.
Yes.
I was telling you about the industrial age and the agrarian age. The people who made the most money were the merchants, not even the industrialists themselves. And the merchants were able to connect the industrialist and the consumer. In the information age, the ICT is connecting the manufacturers or the owners of products to the consumer.
So it's a platform.
And remember, the market is very important. If today you can control the market in Kenya, then all the corporations will run to you to be able to access that market that you control. Okay. So ICT has made it possible for anybody across the world to control a given segment of the market, and you can only control that if you know the trends in that segment, what they like, how are their spending trends, how are their consumption trends. If you can understand that, then you can control that market. Products are the world is awash with products, all manner of products that you would want. Okay. The only problem is where the market is. I was looking at our agricultural sector, Mbithe, and you realize that we have a problem with our cycles of production. You find that at a certain time, there's glut of milk, there's glut in production of maize, and then at a certain time we don't have that product in the market. How can a business come in to try and bridge that gap? Those are the things that should occupy the minds of us as Kenyans, because those opportunities are there. The farmer will get his value, and the consumer will be guaranteed continuous supply of that product at any given time. So those are the gaps that we need to think through and see how best can we bridge those gaps.
Oh, fantastic! And in terms of bridging gaps, we have run out of time, so we have to bridge this conversation rather than bring it to an end. But then I'll ask you one question that I'll probably ask that you might respond very briefly. I hear you talking about the biggest winners in the different revolutions. For the ICT world, the information age that we're in today, who's going to be the biggest winner?
The biggest winner.
Is it platforms? Is it the person who delivers platforms? I know you can't really put it together, but if you could just leave me with one possible winner so that we can keep thinking about it, I would appreciate it.
It will not be the platform, because there's several platforms and some of them are not relevant.
Okay.
But the platform that is able to connect with the market, the
Fantastic.
platform that is able to control the market.
Okay.
That is the group of people, the company that will win at the end of the day.
Fantastic. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I
very
cannot add anything to George's parting shot. The winners will be the platform that connects to markets. And you need to be thinking about that. So just beyond your day-to-day, you need to start thinking, how do I leverage and harness on technology to move me to the next space, especially if you are running a business. Thank you so much for your questions, your comments, and your time. Let's see you again tomorrow. That's 2:30. But if you liked today's conversation, this is something that we normally engage in every single Wednesday, just looking at the subset of technology in different facets. Thank you once again for your time, and good afternoon.